What is up, my friends? It is Nick Anderson, your host of AmongstTheWhiskey.com, and I finally got my hands on the 2024 release of Four Roses Limited Edition Small Batch Bourbon. Let's dig in. So on the Four Roses Limited Edition for 2024, we have a blend of 12 to 20 year bourbons. They used both of their yeast strains and the VK and F yeast strains. It's clocking in at a very clean 108.2 proof, which is pretty much in line with previous versions of the limited edition. All right, nitty gritty here. Expanding on the age statement, it is actually a blend of 12, 15, 16, and 20 year components. 31% of the blend is the OBSV recipe. That's a 12 year. That's the 60% corn, 35% rye, 5% malted barley mash bill. On B, 23% is OESK, 15 years. That's the 75% corn, 20% rye, 5% malted barley recipe. 39% is OESF, 16 years. Again, that E mash bill. And finally, 7% is OBSV, 20 years old. That is the B mash bill. If you're confused on mash bill, recipe, yeast strain, I've got a link in the description that explains it all. There's basically 10 recipes as it stands now, 2 mash bills, 5 yeast strains, 2 times 5, 10. Quick maths. But back to the subject at hand, I have not tried this yet. We still got plastic wrap on this 2024. I just bought it with my own scratch. If that means something to you, so be it. I'm always honest with my reviews. That is a core tenet of AmongstTheWhiskey.com. So let's crack into this and see if we like it. Oh, I should mention this carries an MSRP of $220 this year. So not for the faint of heart. Oh, and a statement on availability or the limited nature of this release. There are 16,680 bottles produced of this. I happen to have bottle 12121. That's kind of neat. 12,121. 12121. Here, check that out. And a close-up of the front if you are curious. Now, let's get to popping and let's get to drinking. Okay, plastic wrap came off like butter. And everything's better with butter. Let's go. I really like that they did the 4 roses on the cap like this. Classy. Okay. Already I can smell the glass that I poured. It's about 2 feet away from my nose, and I can just smell the richness building here. When I do written reviews, I always try to let my glass rest for at least a few minutes. Let some of those aromas build in the glass. Let some of that early ethanol float out of my Glencairn. Always review out of a Glencairn. That's just me. Your glass of choice is your glass of choice. Drink it how you want it. Okay, we've given it a little rest onto the nose. Holy richness. What I definitely get out of the 2024 that I don't normally get on the limited edition is a bit of mintiness, which is interesting because I do think that a majority of this blend is OESF, and I think OESF is the recipe that Four Roses states as normally being a bit minty. So I guess that checks out. It is light in the nose, very floral. I almost get the feeling of, unfortunate callback here, but being at a funeral because of all the floral tones that are abound in this glass. So a good thing for the whiskey in that it smells floral. A bad thing for my mental correlation between flowers and funerals. Okay, digging a little further. Ooh, yeah. I get some subtle vanilla cream tones in here. A really nice pie crust happening. Oh, there's something savory underneath everything that I haven't quite dug deep enough to find, but I know I will probably in a written review. That's a really interesting nose. It feels younger and more tame than some of the previous blends of Four Roses Limited that I've tried. And I think I like that about it. I like that they didn't go for the heavily over oaked profile that a lot of modern distilleries that have well-aged stocks are doing. I can tell Brent Elliott and team are definitely still blending for flavor on this release. They are avoiding faults at all costs. And that's the kind of thing a really good master distiller is going to watch for. The likes of Jim Rutledge or Greg Metz. And it's very clear that Brent Elliott has studied and learned from the greats. Because right off the bat, I can tell this is just a whiskey that has no faults on the nose whatsoever. That doesn't default mean that it's going to score super high with me. Whiskey is meant to be drank, so we're going to get to sipping here shortly. And after 3 glasses, I will give you my true rating that I would use on amongstthewhiskey.com. I'm going to venture to not rate, since this is a first open, kind of a quick sit down and exploration. I'm not going to rate it at the end of this tasting, but I will give you generally how my first experience tasting this has gone tonight. So with that, cheers, my friends. Let's get on to sipping, shall we? Okay, yeah. Same thing that the nose led with, that light undertone of just a very earthy, very light mintiness. It's not overpowering mint like you might get out of some oddball ryes in the modern era that are hitting shelves. It's just like a subtle mint garnish that you would put as a addition to your mojito. It's very subtle. It's on the almost lands on like the underside of the tongue. Like it's not like you're really experiencing it. You're almost experiencing like a secondhand version of that mint. Okay, another taste. That was my first sip of the day. Let's condition the palate a little bit, get to work. Oh yeah. Wow. Okay, that tastes like vanilla biscotti, and you've just dunked a little bit of that vanilla biscotti into your cappuccino, softened it a little bit, took that little bite. It's like half soft, half hard, fully enveloped in those creamy frothed milk tones. The vanilla biscotti is perfect. Touch of that espresso on the underside. Just an exquisite sip. Okay, coming back to the nose, there are some interesting tones, definitely complex. The interesting tones I'm finding are a touch metallic, maybe like you might find out of a long stewed tomato sauce, a homemade tomato sauce. You got your Italian herbs and spices going in there. This is clearly crafted with love because of that note. That's maybe what's really resonant with it. Yeah, that smells like good home cooking right there. Wow, I really like the smell there. Okay, back to sipping. Wow, yeah. It doesn't really hit like modern high test barrel proof bourbons normally would. It's not your tier 6 barrel proof single barrel. This is clearly blended to build out some complexity and maintain supreme drinkability. That's what I remember most about other Four Roses limited editions. I didn't really like the 2023 release, but I really enjoyed the 2022 and the 2021. I think I mentioned in my review of the 2021 Four Roses limited edition that it just maintained this supreme drinkability, which is good. It's a good thing for sure. And I do recall in the 2021 liking the nose better than the palate. I think that may be true of the 2024 as well. And if you're interested for some really deep dive thoughts on 2024 versus 2023 versus 2022, maybe even versus 2021, I do have a bottle right there. Stay tuned for a blind tasting where I explore all 4 of those. And I may even put a single barrel strength pick that I did with Mandy up in the mix as well. We'll see. stay tuned for that. So if you're really interested in seeing that video, make sure you like and subscribe so that you can catch that when it hits, which should be soon. Okay, let's continue to work on this glass. Yeah, sipping down lower after this is opened for some time, again, really leans into that supreme drink ability. It is like silk on the tongue. Those vanilla biscotti tones are still there. Milkiness, frothiness. There is zero spice. There are zero sharp tones. This is a classy, classy bourbon for the classy, classy drinker. I do think that your hardcore bourbon bros might not find this to be their favorite pour. If you're really looking for that smack in the face, Stag Junior punchiness, this pour is probably not that and may not be for you. But if you're the swirl and sniff and spend 2 hours with a glass type, get you one of these. It's definitely not quite hitting wow-worthy territory for me tonight. Lucky for you, I'm going to spend probably 2 more days having 2 more glasses of this before I publish my full thoughts to amongstthewhiskey.com. That's kind of the crazy bar that I've set for myself, to make sure I'm delivering well triangulated, really well thought out, and properly scored reviews. I make sure I taste things 3 times before they ever hit the webpage. And that is why you can trust amongstthewhiskey.com to be the best independent whiskey review site that you can consume your whiskey content from. I don't make the same claims to my YouTube channel. I do think my writing is significantly better than my videos. So please support your learning through this channel, also with a little bit of reading, if you can take the time to do so. I know the world's a busy place, but you can internalize far more information reading than you can watching a YouTube video. I guarantee you're going to forget half the stuff I talked about in this. But you're probably going to come away with a general sense that I did like this bourbon, and you would be perfectly correct in that assumption. But there's nuance to everything. So do some extended research. Don't take things at face value. Try not to believe your cousin Bob who told you that X whiskey was really good. Seek out people that have worked on their palate for a very long time, spent a lot of time learning in the industry to make sure that the opinions that you're consuming are good ones, and then give credit where credit's due. If you hear from somebody very knowledgeable that a whiskey is good, let people know who you heard it from. I way too often see people say, "Oh, I heard that was good." Great. From who? Should I trust you? Tell me who you heard it from. And if you tell me a whiskey reviewer that I trust, if you tell me that Eric from Breaking Bourbon says a whiskey is really good, I'm going to want to try it. If he gave it a 4 or a 5 barrel score, you better believe I'm going to go out and try to find that whiskey. Same is true when I give out a 5. You can guarantee that is going to be a whiskey that I love. So back to the whiskey that I'm rambling about here. Four Roses 2024 limited edition. Let's say goodbye and offer some final thoughts on this year's limited release. Okay, just lovely. Finishes out with those classic bourbon tones. Just a touch of cherry, a little bit of caramel. What I like the most is really in that linger. It's got this soft earthiness, this soft clay tone to it. Really makes it feel well aged, almost vintage. The mintiness does come back, hangs around kind of on the edges of the tongue. And I got to reiterate, absolutely no flaws. Maybe my only qualm would be that it is almost too subtle. It's very understated, very classy, very easy drinking. And for me, I am probably looking for a little more wow factor here. The $220 price tag, I really want to have wide eyes, eyebrows raised, thinking about, wow, I really need another pour of this at a future date. I like to sip very patiently, very responsibly, and I think you should too, if you can. So I am definitely looking forward to another 2 tastes of this. I'm looking forward to tasting this blind against previous batches of the Four Roses limited edition. And I also want to hear what you think. Drop me a comment. What do you think about the 2024? Have you tried it yet? Have you tried previous year's releases? Have you compared them? Where does it land on your quality scale? Drop me a comment. Really interested to hear. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. That is going to do it for today's video on the Four Roses 2024 limited edition. And until next time, my friends, keep it amongst the whiskey.